Obviously, hey everyone, thanks for joining. Of course, here with Jeff, but got a unique guest today talking to Ziev. We're diving into crypto, NFTs, mixing in biotech. I know, crazy, but kind of want to throw it over. Jeff, how are you? Ziev, nice to meet you. Maybe Jeff, you want to introduce Ziev a little bit? We can do a little intro
Sure.
and then dive into
Sure.
why the company bought a crypto exchange and what we're looking to do.
Cool. Jason, good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you.
I hope your summer is going well. Here, I'm in Cape Town now. I just got back from Dubai, but in Cape Town, we're a little bit chilly. Up where Ziev is in Johannesburg, a little bit warmer, which is normal. We entered into an LOI to acquire Ziev's crypto platform. We expect to close that in the coming weeks. And why did we do that? It's always been something that I've talked about prior to on other videos that we had done, Jason. But specifically with Ziev, he and I go back to kind of mid last year. We started chatting about using the crypto style platforms, blockchain especially, to be able to use it as a storage for intellectual property. And I started thinking, well, what else can we do with that? And then we really started putting our heads together. What if we started, using molecules that we discover, being able to put these things, the crystal structures onto NFTs, so that these would be one-off, totally unique structures that the owner of that NFT could. It's almost like having the Mona Lisa. There's only one. And yet we could also attach some kind of maybe a revenue stream to these NFTs. We don't have the business case solid yet for what will be attached to the NFT. But we do know, and I've always said what we do want to do is democratize, the ability in letting a small guy participate in math and science and biotechnology and the next generation of medicine. It's, as you know, Jason, from your background, very difficult for the small guy to participate in a biotechnology company. And he may be fascinated, he or she may be fascinated in, hey, I want to buy that, new potential drug that may help alcoholics, rid themselves of their drinking issues, something like that. And yet, how do you do that as a small guy? You can't. But what if we were working on a particular molecule, which we are, which might be something that we can slap onto an NFT where that person has an ownership stake in either the NFT or potentially an altcoin that we would use to tokenize that process. So all sorts of crazy, crazy cool ideas that we're working on. We know it makes sense. It will make sense down the road soon for everybody. Of course, it's brand new, but I'd rather be way ahead of the curve than behind the curve. We're definitely not, another Bored Ape and slapping up an ape on an NFT. This has to do with science, real hardcore science. And just a quick little, who is Ziev? Ziev he's got a few master's degree in drug discovery and sciences up at the University of Pretoria. Funnily enough, he got those degrees in our labs at UP. And then he went on to do his law degree, then went on to do a bunch of other incredible stuff. And now he's actually going to go back into the lab and do his PhD in the M2Bio labs, where we have a ton of postdocs and everything working on phytomedicines, which is where we're looking at drug discovery to find new drugs to help certain things like addiction and other issues. And on that note, why don't I just pop it over, Jason, or you can pop it over to Ziev. Let him give a quick 1 minute. Maybe I brutalized my introduction to him. I don't know.
Good.
Go for it.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, just to clarify one or two things. I was in multiple universities. I will be at University of Pretoria for my PhD in drug discovery under the research chair of M2Bio. My master's in medicinal chemistry and drug discovery was under Kelly Chibali, who's also one of the leaders, one of the leading professors in drug discovery. So so I spent a lot of time at UCT. I was at the University of Stellenbosch. My law degree was at UNISA, while I was a forensic scientist for about 12 years, running one of the police forensic labs, which was primarily concerned with analytical chemistry. Drug discovery is actually kind of like a forensic process. You are identifying things that you need to have either, it's a process of discovery, right? And so is forensics. So it's very full of analytical chemistry. So anyway, so that's a bit about my academic
give me
background.
the it's crazy background. Sounds like you're doing tons. Tell me how biochem drug discovery law becomes launching a crypto exchange. Love to know what happened in between or how you came to that.
So also there was I have another degree in information systems, but so when I was in the forensic labs, and well, I mean, initially, I did chemistry to understand how the universe was put together, right? And atoms, molecules, and the laws of physics, and then at some point it became evident to me that we had another universe, right? Another reality, which is a virtual reality, digital reality, and now when you're seeing the progress of AI, it's becoming very prominent that actually there is sort of an alternate universe, a digital universe. And then my focus kind of shifted to computer science again. And at that time, it was 2017, and everyone was blockchain. And I was sitting in South Africa, and actually, beginning 2017, no one in South Africa really knew. It was hard to find people who actually knew what blockchain was. I remember just driving past the IBM building, slamming on brakes, running inside and going does anyone here know what blockchain is? And then going down the rabbit hole in that. And at that point, once you go down it's a rabbit hole, right? And you can't escape from it, and you just want to understand deeper and deeper, and you want to understand the economics, and it makes you question, where does money come from? How does it work? How does the capital market, and then there's the computer science and the cryptography, and so you never escape from it. And then at that point, I saw so many economic opportunities in South Africa, because there's a lot of challenges here. On the border of our country, we have Zimbabwe's currency collapsed. They don't have a currency. Now suddenly we as individuals can build currencies, right? And it's like, okay, well, maybe it shouldn't be in the hands of the government. Maybe it should be in the hands of community. So there was real use cases, and then at that point, I kind of went, okay, well, there's so many opportunities here. There's so many things that we could do to drive humanity forward. But at that point, you still needed an exchange between cryptocurrency and fiat currency, right? That wasn't going to go away for a very long time. And it's still, and it's almost like these are two alternate financial systems might continue in parallel for a very long time. So the first step was, okay, well, we need to build the exchange. Because all of these projects require the exchange between fiat and cryptocurrency. And going back to the science, when I was in drug discovery, so in my master's, at least in first stage trials, I was working on novel drugs for HIV and malaria. And in the first sort of stage of trials, 6 of my compounds that I had synthesized were more active than any HIV drug on the market. And I was like a student. I just kind of shelved it after my master's. I didn't know what to do with it. There wasn't anyone guiding me. Also, I realized that I was doing it under the university, so actually they probably owned the patent. But I published it, and so no one had actual rights to any patent or IP. But what I began to realize is that there are really smart people doing research in many institutions, especially academic institutions, and inventions or creations or discoveries that could change the course of the world just get shelved and archived. And one is because they don't have the guidance. Scientists aren't business people; they're like artists. And the second is, even if they wanted to, where would the finance come from? You'd walk into a bank and you told them about an engineering design or a molecule that you've discovered. They won't know what you're talking about. And so there's this limitation when it comes to finance. And when I saw what the crypto world and decentralized finance and blockchain was doing, it was like, oh, wait a second. Finally, there's a place where we've got another source of financing these projects that could change the course of humanity. anyway, that's a long
I
route.
love this story arc. So amazing. Crazy
Yeah.
background. Wow. And so, this kind of circles back into, hey, giving the small guy, the opportunity to support something like this. And, let's kind of loop it all back. So I guess walk me through, whoever wants to take the question, like walk me through what it is. As imagine I'm the small guy seeing something for the first time, so how's it actually going to work? Walk me through kind of the process, at least how you guys imagine it. I know we're still working on some details, but okay, great. So, I see this thing that Ziev, you say you shelved it, but it's come back, and now, you're going to launch an NFT around it, or, altcoins around it, as Jeff said, that, I can buy, own a small piece of, and that will kind of further fund, obviously, the development of the molecule. But do you want to kind of, did I miss anything? Do you want to kind of walk me through an example?
I don't know.
No, Ziev, go ahead. I like how Jason kind of said, why don't you just continue with your story about the molecules that you found, and like the trouble that you went through? Now it's like, okay, now I've got a crypto exchange. Now what could you do with it? I mean, this is a real case, because this is what we're going to be doing at UP.
Yeah.
Right. So what would you, how would that now work?
So, I mean, let me just take, so I'd like to take a step back and actually go and actually define the problem, right? So let's say I'm sitting in my lab and I've discovered these molecules, right? And I go, okay, you know what? I'm gonna take this on and try and build and take this to a drug. Or I'm a physicist and I've got a design for something, right, that is impactful. So now, what are the options for financing that, right? So there's friends and family, right? That's quickly going to run out, and some of us don't have like friends and family are going to, so let's just cross that one out. It's not really an option, right? Especially like where you need $1 million or something, or a couple of million rand in South Africa. So then there's the bank, right? So you walk into a bank, and now you've got a technical product, a highly technical product, right? A potential, let's say, drug or compound that, like you said, you need to go into the biochemistry of receptors and how this might, and then the propagation of how it would be beneficial to someone, right? So it's quite technical. The bank's not really interested. You're not known to them. So let's cross that one out, because they're not going to interact with you, right? Then there's private equity, right? Private equity is going to say, well, how long have you been generating revenue for, right? And you're like, well, it's a little compound that's sitting, and you can only see it in the nano scale, right? It's like you need really special instruments to see it. And so they're like, let's cross that one out, right? Venture capital, maybe, but there's no real venture capital in Africa. So you're done, right? You may have had a drug that could have cured and saved millions of people, but you're done because you didn't have an option to finance, right? And we see that, and 99% of projects that could be impactful to the human race, to humanity, will never see the light of day for that limitation, right? And there's also, the secondary problem that even if a bank wanted to fund it, right, it's one, there's an aggregation of capital. So it's one source, and they're funding millions. So there's high stakes. They expect profits in a certain period of time. It's all incentivized around profits, and there's huge risk to one institution, let's say, right? Whereas now you tokenize it, right? Everyone on earth can invest in this, and the risk to them is very small, right? They don't have to go. No one's out saying invest $1 million, put $10, right? But you now have you don't have borders anymore, right? You don't have these limitations, and you don't have massive risk on the investors. And again, even the success doesn't all go to one single institution, right? It doesn't maintain the aggregation of capital to corporations, banks, and government. So you've now also democratized, let's say, the profit coming out of it. But even more important, the traditional way of financing, the incentive structures are also skewed. So it might be that I see a project, a scientific project, and I go, okay, there's a molecule. Let's see what's going to happen with it. I'll put in $10 or $100, right? I don't necessarily, for me, the success success of that might not be that I get $50 back or $200 back. It might be that, oh, wait a second, we've advanced this area of research, right? As a result of my contribution and other contributions, we're now scientifically stepping 4 steps forward, right? For me, that could be a success. That could be, I don't need a necessarily. So you've also changed the incentives. So that's the first part. So now in terms of building the platform, so JDAX is really the platform that we want to use to find impactful projects and say, okay, well, we'll help you tokenize this. We will maybe do initial due diligence and screening, but we'll also tell everyone who's coming to this platform, you know, do your due diligence, look at what it is, and you know, like everything's a risk, but here's an option to fund projects that could never have been funded before and see where these things go.
Look, and to give some context to help you out. I mean, look, this model in some way, you know, obviously a little different in biotech, but this model has been used for people to buy golf courses, right? If anyone's familiar, like LinksDAO exists. You've had crowdfunded gold mines, you know, things like that, or at least exploration of gold mines. So you've had a lot of unique things. I think this is first time I've heard of it in biotech. So congrats to you guys. It'll be exciting to see how it all plays out. Just I guess a question for you. I mean, we're talking about this all in the times of, you know, Binance, North American struggles, you know, crypto wise. I mean, just because I know there's going to be a ton of questions about that. Do you guys want to talk about, you know, is there any concern for Binance? Is there any concern for what might happen to them? Yes.
Well, I'll take that.
Yeah.
So yes, of course there is. And how do we get around that is, you know me, Jason, I've been saying to all of our people for a long time that my favorite place in the world is the UAE. It has become, without a doubt, the economic engine, in my opinion, of the world. It will be for the next 2-3 decades going forward. I just got back from Dubai last week. I'll be there next month again. You know, we're making sure that jurisdiction-wise, all of our stuff will reside there. I hate to say it, but there are very few places in the world where I would actually have any IP reside. And one of them would certainly not be a place like America, you know, where they talk about, you know, debanking, or in Canada, you were debanking your citizens. Nigel Farage in the UK has been debanked. He doesn't have a bank account. He's not allowed, you know, all the banks said, we're not going to give you a bank. Like, how scary is this stuff? And the US with, you know, talks about reparations, and South Africa talks about reparations. It's like, who knows what's going to happen? But what I can assure you, that will never take place in a jurisdiction like Dubai or the UAE. They don't get involved in that stuff. I always say, really simply put, it's like, hey, how you doing? I'm the king. Here are the rules. If you like the rules, you can stay and play. Stick within the boundaries. You'll never get in trouble. Go outside the boundaries, I'm chopping your hands off, or you're going to jail for life. You know, and that's the way it is. If you don't like it, don't come. But I like it because of that, because you know what the guardrails are. You know you can go this far and that's it. And if you try to go any further, the repercussions for you would just be scary. And just recently, the UAE has announced further, you know, crypto-free zones and stuff. The amount of money that they are plowing into this type of stuff in the UAE is just unreal. So whilst the US is going after platforms like Binance and SEC inquiries and saying, hey, we're shutting you down, we're doing the exact opposite. And you know, this was part of my plan. I've been saying it for a couple of years now, that jurisdiction-wise, we're moving all of our stuff into the UAE, specifically into Dubai and other regions as well, but mostly Dubai. It is the friendliest place in the world to do business. Is it expensive? Yes. But everything, the deliverables by these people is over and above. And I just love working in that type of an environment. It's just so pro-business, it would blow people away. So I love it. That's what we're doing in terms of your question. You know, and like you're saying, Binance and all the rest of them, that's why we're going to be in Dubai, where it's just so friendly. incredibly friendly, and so safe. I talked, earlier on, I shared a quick story about, a European guy, German guy, walking into a crypto exchange retail store right around where I am in the marina. And the guy, opened up a suitcase and he had €500,000 right there. Took it out, they counted it, boom, and this guy's changing that type of money every day. And to them, there is no source of funds. You don't need to show source of funds or whatever. If it's your cash, it's your cash, right? And if the crypto is your crypto, it's your crypto. That's it. It's none of this, the American government wants to get in there and know absolutely everything about everything, none of that going on. So long story short, I love it over there. That's where we'll be located, and very excited about all of that.
Love it.
So just so you know, a quick story, Jason. I think you've asked me before, like going way back. Most biotech startups and stuff, you're going to have your IP reside usually in the BVIs or something like that, protection from lawsuits, liability. So in our case, I'm just not doing BVIs or any area like that. I'm doing an area where I can actually conduct business, and that's Dubai. So for me, offshore, but you've got so much capital there for investment purposes. It is just such a no-brainer. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Love it. Yeah, I know. Good answer. I mean, obviously, a lot of people just see the headlines of Binance getting in trouble, pulling out of Canada, pulling out of the US, that's happening. So obviously, yeah, no, good answer. Like setting the story straight. So that's good. I guess, last kind of question I have is like, what kind of timeline are we looking at? You guys have any ideas? Is this something people can expect this year? Is this just, coming? It's in the plans? Like, what's the... Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely, I think, well, definitely this year. And there's going to be a number of stages, right? So JDAX is there. It's a fully functional exchange. We're about to just redo all of the software stack and just soup it up, get to kind of a trading frequency that is equivalent to the top stock exchanges in the world. But and again, for my vision, right, the trading isn't the big. It's just the trading is there to allow you to make the illiquid liquid, right? So you mentioned that the template that we were using sometimes can seem like a crowdfunding template, right? In that you're now taking a project and you've got a whole massive community that can invest in it, and it was the major difference between this and crowdfunding, for one, is that the people who own the token, right, we're going for ownership, right? As opposed to in the past, they've tried to avoid having a token representing ownership to bypass SEC, etc. And so they would call it like a utility token. But we want you to own part of what we're doing, right? So so the token does represent ownership. Secondly, it allows, in a crowdfunding thing, you can't trade your ownership, right? So it allows you to go, okay, I've invested in this interesting project. I not only have ownership to it, but I can also trade it. I can also liquidate it very quickly, right? Which is also important. So, the trading isn't the primary thing, but it allows us to make the liquid. So the platform will be up again in let's say the next 2 months, hopefully, with our new software stack. And then we will begin to work on the NFTs and an NFT marketplace to represent ownership in the discovery of the drugs and the molecules. Initially, maybe it might be just images, XRD, what they call X-ray diffraction images of a crystal lattice of our molecules. But it will be a process. But the platform will be up fairly soon. The projects that will come out will be over time. First, it will be our drug discovery program, and that will set the tone, that will set the prototype. And then we'll be looking for other impactful projects. And that will be tokenized smart contract projects on there, and then the NFTs will come. We'll merge an NFT marketplace with that later.
Cool.
Yeah.
So hey, Jason, just to add on to that, and I know we're about to wrap it up here in the next minute or two. So the timeline, as you know, with these things, it's always a moving target. But our timeline, as you know, I'm a hyper guy. I want to get things done yesterday, right? And I'll be back in Dubai in about 4 or 5 weeks. And like I want to give you an example of where it comes from my heart as to what we're doing and why I know this makes sense. I always talk about critical thinking, and I always ask myself, what has happened to the critical thinking ability of today's society? It just doesn't exist. You know, it's like it's gone out the window. People take a narrative from one of the, you know, major news organizations, whatever that narrative is, they just regurgitate that narrative without thinking it through, period. And they just keep on going and going and going. And you can't break through to them. But my passion for what we're doing comes from a great example from today. I got the most beautiful email from first I got a LinkedIn connection request from a girl at University of Stellenbosch who is a BSc, MSc, graduate honors, sent the most beautiful introduction, said that she had seen and heard about everything that we're doing and would love the opportunity just to be a part of it and not to be paid. She just wants to know, can I come intern with your company? So she lives up in Pretoria now, which is where University of Pretoria is, obviously. But it was the most, I mean, if you look at her resume, it's like, I mean, Zeb would know better, but she's won Golden Keys, which are kind of like the biggest, you know, award that you would give these graduate students. And you read her resume, it's like, oh my God, like, and you hear her passion. She wrote me an email that's like half of a book describing her journey through life, where she's at, and where she wants to head. And she finds that what we do is just so in tune, and she's never been able to find that. And she went and talked about this whole new thing with the NFTs. And it was just, it blew me away. And you see, that for me, Jason, is what keeps me going every day. If I can get one young, smart person that wants to really work hard and use their brain and make this world a better place somehow, man, do I feel good at the end of the day. You know, and I would never do this if this was about, you know, making an NFT another Bored Ape. That doesn't help I hate to say it, but in my opinion, it doesn't help society. We're not going anywhere with that. That if we can do stuff to find a new drug to treat addiction, to treat depression, to treat any of those areas that we're going after, and it's because some young kid like this girl today that sent me that email got involved, and down the road she's now a major scientist, you know, recognized around the world. I mean, man, is that cool or is that cool? So that's kind of the legacy type of thing that I always think about. Like, where do I want to be in 10, 20 years looking back? And I really want to be looking down and going, man, look at all these incredibly smart people doing smart things, involving themselves in medicine, technology, science, research, making this world a healthier, better place so we can cure things like cancer eventually. I mean, cancer has been around for so long and we've hardly made a dent. And it does piss off a lot of people. Is it big corporations holding us back? And Jason, I know you and I have had that conversation. Your dad is in the industry, knows it well, and maybe it is, maybe it's not, and maybe it's a little bit of that. But the bottom line is, just to finish off, I find that what we're doing just so innovative and so new and so allowing everyone to be involved. And for me, that makes my day.
Love it. Well, look, happy you guys are kind of taking a shot at something. I mean, this would be pretty cool. First time I've seen something like this being done. So, hey, congratulations on kicking something off. Let's see how it builds out over the next month or two. And yeah, I'm sure you'll get some cool traction, and that's awesome. You're already having people reach out to you that, you know, hey, just want to be involved in something unique and innovative. Anything else you guys wanted to add in before we close things off?
Ziev, I'll leave it to you if you want to sum up with a minute or two.
Well,
Go ahead.
I think back to that question on Binance, and You know, if you think about what Binance is, it's just a trading platform, right? And well, you know, a lot of the path of crypto has been, people don't understand what the use case for it is, right? And you know, like when you saw in 2017 Lipton blockchain, right? And what does blockchain have to do with iced tea? In that case, that didn't have any relevance. But using NFTs to prove ownership of something unique, like a patent, right? We all know, like a title deed, or in the case of how it was previously, was just artwork, but NFT works perfectly to represent ownership of something unique, like a patent, right? So we're, you know, and the same thing is, you know, the power of crypto and the power of blockchain is to disintermediate, let's say, aggregated you know, places where capital is aggregated, like a third party or a bank, to do transactions, and bring it back to the individual and create peer-to-peer interactions between individuals. And you know, and that's what decentralized finance is really about. And you know, what we're about to do is really bring, you know, perfect use cases for what blockchain and crypto assets can do, and things like NFT, right, non-fungible tokens. So you know, I feel very confident because it is the perfect use case, right? We're establishing a perfect use case here. So I'm excited. It might be that as JDAX becomes the platform, right now it's Johannesburg Digital Asset Exchange, as it becomes a platform for these kind of projects, particularly probably starting in biotech. Jeff and I are thinking of maybe changing the name, but we'll see. So, but anyway, we'll be giving a lot of content as we discover what we are about to discover, and all the molecules of the drugs. So you know, you can stay tuned for that.
Awesome. Well, look, appreciate you joining. Yeah, looking forward to keeping my kind of tabs on it. Be interested to build out. You probably will have to change the name, I would imagine, but hey, we'll see how it all kind of boils down.
We're based in Dubai, then Johannesburg Digital Asset Exchange, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for joining. Appreciate it. Jeff, as always, thank you. So
Thanks, Jason. Always great to see you, bro.